Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's PIER Plan webinar. We are going to wait 1 minute to allow participants to join, and then we will start. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Eileen Chant. I'm the Outreach Program Manager at the DOE SBIR STTR Programs Office, and I'm here to talk about a new requirement for SBIR STTR applicants in fiscal year 2024. It is a PIER plan requirement. And I just want to start by reminding everybody that one of the statutory directives of the SBIR STTR Programs Office, there's only about 4 directives. One of them is to foster and encourage participation in SBIR STTR innovation and entrepreneurship by women and socially economically disadvantaged persons. In addition to that, the Department of Energy has set some priority goals with respect to underrepresented groups in SBIR and STTR. And that one of those priority goals is that the target of 15% of the DOE's SBIR STTR Phase 1 awards should be dispersed to women and minority-owned businesses by October 1st, 2024, just a little bit over a year away. So we are addressing our diversity goals through multiple initiatives, including the PIER plan, which I'm presenting today. We are working with the SBIR program is housed in the Office of Science. We are part of the Department of Energy's Office of Science, and we work with the Office of Scientific Workforce, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, their office, in establishing best and advancing best practices for promoting diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility, or DEIA. So the Office of Science added the PIER plan requirement for all solicitations beginning in fiscal year 2023. The SBIR Programs Office was given an additional year to implement this requirement in all of our solicitations. So in our fiscal year 2024 solicitations, we do have a requirement promoting that all applicants submit a plan for their small business for promoting inclusive and equitable research. We're going to call that the PIER plan. Your PIER plan will be provided as an appendix to the project narrative. So it will be part of that PDF, that project narrative PDF that you create and attach in the grants.gov form. The PIER plan is limited to 3 pages, should be 1 to 3 pages. We are picturing for our SBIR applicants, it's going to be closer to 1 page. That's going to be most typical. It should describe the activities and strategies that investigators and research personnel incorporate to promote DEIA in their research projects. So the PIER plans are going to be evaluated as part of the merit review criterion. Right now we have 3 merit review criterion, which is the strength and novelty of the idea, the team, and the impact of the proposed idea. We now have a 4th merit review criteria, which is the PIER plan, the strength of the submitted PIER plan. That merit review criteria is the lesser of the 4 criteria, the first 3 being equally weighted and given more weight than the 4th one, which is the PIER plan. So as always, selection for awards are made for those applications which are judged to have the highest overall merit within their technical program. As I said, consideration given through the first 3 primary review criteria. Those first 3 are weighted equally and are of higher weight to compared to the 4th, which is the PIER plan criteria. The scope of the PIER plan should be tailored to the research project. That means it shouldn't be some kind of copy and paste of an institutional DEIA plan. It should be integral to your research project. And this is also important as far as SBIR STTR programs is concerned. The complexity and detail of a PIER plan is expected to increase with the size of the research team and the number of personnel to be supported. In the FOA, our FOA for phase 1 release 1 is going to be released on August 7th, just a few days away. All applicants, this paragraph shown here is the information in the FOA or the guidance in the FOA on the PIER plans. Plans may, I'll read the part about halfway through the paragraph. Plans may include, but are not limited to, plans of your small business concern and collaborating institutions, if applicable, to recruit individuals from diverse backgrounds and groups historically underrepresented in the research community. Plans to contribute to an R&D environment that fosters a safe, positive, and inclusive workplace. A sense of belonging among all personnel, and or supporting, training, mentoring, and partnering with underrepresented communities. You may leverage existing DEIA efforts of your business, but should not be a restatement of broad principles. So applicants are encouraged to focus on the following areas, but not limited to these areas, but these are some of the areas which you could focus on in your application. The composition of the project team and the partnering institutions, cultivating a respectful, professional, and accessible research environment, equitable and inclusive implementation of the research project, and or partnering with underrepresented institutions and or underserved communities. Also very important that funds may be requested. Part of the R&D funds may be requested for execution of the PIER plan. And these are the existing funds. These are the funds, as some of you may know, in the topics document, there is a maximum R&D amount that you can request. It's topic specific. That number doesn't change. But those funds, R&D funds, may be requested within allowable guidelines for execution of the PIER plan. I did want to focus a little bit on this aspect, which is that the complexity and the detail of the PIER plans are expected to increase with the size of the research team and the number of personnel supported. So you're not necessarily, as if you're a 1 or 2 person company, you're not necessarily competing with larger companies or larger institutions. What we want to see is advancement in this area, with the small businesses doing more than they have in the past. So we want to see, someone said, an increasing slope in this area, and a positive slope in the area of the business working with in terms of their DEIA planning. So for phase 1, the project is 6 to 12 months. We see award limits are limited to $200,000 or $250,000, depending on the topic. And so it is expected for these relatively short projects that a 1-page PIER plan is suitable and probably most typical. So your PIER plan should be simple and focused relative to the scope of the project, but really kind of focusing on one activity. With phase 2, the project duration is typically 2 years. Award limits are quite a bit higher, 1.1 or 1.6 million. So PIER plans could be generally also simple and focused on a particular activity, although they should be more than involved in a phase 1 PIER plan. Just as a reminder, phase 2 applicants are eligible to apply for a diversity supplement to support additional project personnel. This can't be the entirety of your PIER plan because those funds are requested in the second, after the phase 2 award is made, and they are dependent on the diversity supplement application. Not all applications are approved. So there needs to be more meat on the bone than just a simple diversity supplement for your PIER plan as a phase 2 applicant. As will be documented in our funding opportunity announcement, we make selections for our awards for those applications evaluated as most meritorious based on external peer review, against established merit review criteria. I've said this before, I'm just for emphasis. The first 3 review criteria are equally weighted and are of greater weight than the 4th PIER plan criteria. Just as a reminder, please put your questions in the Q&A box. We will have Q&A after I go through my slides. And do not put your questions in the chat box. That's for us to provide additional requested information to the audience. I see that some things are going into the chat box. Please put your questions in the Q&A. If you've already put it in the chat box, go ahead and put them back into the Q&A box. Thanks. Here are the writing reviewer questions for the PIER plan. If you go to our funding opportunity announcements, you'll see that you have guiding reviewer questions for your phase 1 or your phase 2 applications. Those are listed for the criteria that include the technical merit, the team, and the impact. This is going to be the 4th one. This is what the technical reviewers are expected to think about when they're evaluating the PIER plan. The appropriateness of the proposed PIER plan for the size of the small business concern, proposed project, and whether it's integrated into the project. Whether the PIER plan is likely to lead to participation and mentoring of individuals from diverse backgrounds in the proposed project, including individuals historically underrepresented in the research community. Whether the PIER plan includes intentional partnering with or benefits to a disadvantaged and or underrepresented community, and whether the PIER plan is likely to support a sense of belonging amongst project personnel. We are expecting and hoping that we will receive a wide range of ideas and approaches in applicant PIER plans. We are going to interpret these plans somewhat broadly, and it should be about improving your small businesses efforts in this area. You're getting from point A to a better place, point B. So it's not about a comparison with what a larger business or a university does in this area. And not all the above questions may apply to a PIER plan. Again, for a phase 1 application, the PIER plan should be focused on, on a particular activity. And so maybe not all of these apply in every case. So you provide, you create your project narrative. You're going to have the appendix of the project narrative is going to contain your PIER plan. So when you PDF your project narrative, PIER plan should be included in that document. And then you attach it as you do, as has been in the past, you attach your project narrative PDF to field 8 in the research and related other project information form. A lot of this material I've covered. I have it on the slide for emphasis, but I will say some of the new information is that your PIER plan should include at least one specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-bound milestone. So you do need to have a milestone in your PIER plan, and your milestone progress will be part of the reporting requirement. Again, R&D funds may be requested for execution of the PIER plan within allowable cost guidelines. I'm going to provide some examples of suitable topics for PIER plans. I know that everybody will be interested in this part. Mentoring underrepresented persons in STEM and entrepreneurship as well. Hiring underrepresented interns and or staff. Providing professional development training and leadership experience to underrepresented persons that are integral to the project. Providing professional learning and educational opportunities to small business employees to develop awareness, knowledge, and strategies for supporting diverse and innovative work environments. Implementing inclusive workplace practices. Partnering with a minority serving institution, such as an HBCU. Engagement with organizations in the project that represent underserved communities as a core element of their mission, including minority business entities and nonprofit or community-based organizations. Inclusion of a community advisory board or other relevant steering committees to inform technology development. Technology development with future community benefits and or energy equity implications for disadvantaged communities should the technology be successful, such as reduction in household energy burdens, reduction in environmental exposure, improvement in energy infrastructure resilience, future workforce impacts and opportunities. The last example topic would be projects that lead to cleanup of legacy nuclear waste and mitigate existing pollutions for an affected community and partnering with that community. What is not a good PIER plan or an insufficient PIER plan? As I've said before, a copy of an institutional DEIA plan or listing standard institutional policies and procedures. A proposal for a K through 12 STEM-based community outreach is not integral to the proposed research. A DEI activity that is already being carried out by the applicant and or partners and is not related or relevant to the proposed research. So PIER plans should be integrated into the research, and you can request funding to execute the PIER plan. Here's just a couple of questions that applicants can consider when they are developing their PIER plan. How will the activities proposed in the PIER plan enhance the scientific and or technical merit of the proposed research project? Are timelines or milestones for proposed activities and strategies appropriate? Who are the stakeholders informing the proposed PIER plan, and do they have the experience and perspectives that will support the implementation of the plan? You will be receiving a copy of the slide deck. It'll take a few business days for it to go out because we get the webinar listing of the attendees, and that just takes a couple of days, but we will send this out to everybody who's here at this webinar. I think there's some very good reading here. And that's it. Those are my slides. I just want to end before we go into Q&A with a few points, including that technology development and incorporation of DEIA are not mutually exclusive. Research has shown that the strongest solution sets come from teams who recognize the diversity of thought and reasoning to good, sound scientific discovery. So the PIER plans here at DOE are a part of an effort to ensure that the best SBIR, STTR applications come with input from all parts and all peoples of the United States. So now I'm here to answer your questions, listen to suggestions or inputs that you have on this new requirement. Zena, are you here to moderate the session?
Yes, thank you, Eileen. We start is 15% is not much. Why so low?
It's not 15%, and you may be getting that number from other agencies at DOE, but ours is not 15%.
And someone is asking for Dr. Chan's email address. We already put it in the chat box, so please refer to that. For STTR's 15% pool for minority, women, diversity, if the research institute PI qualifies, but the small business entity does not, will the application enter that set aside pool?
There are no set asides in SBIR, STTR, just to be clear. It is the most competitive research applications that receive awards. There are no set-asides. We are advancing diversity through other initiatives, but through outreach and other initiatives, but there are no set-asides.
Thank you. This question is regarding the slides and the recording. As we indicated, the recording is for internal use only. However, we will email you a copy of the presentation as soon as the list of attendees is available for us. So please look for that email. Thank you. PIER is more difficult in states that are 95% white. How can any PIER plan apply to such a limited DEIA culture?
So we are not defining diversity in such a narrow way. Diversity can include any group that's underrepresented in the STEM research and development, in the physical sciences and the engineering world. For example, women are very underrepresented, and other groups as well. So please understand that diversity is going to be defined broadly for the purposes of the PIER plan, including veterans or persons with disabilities. And that's just a very short list. Okay.
Is this only a requirement for phase 1 application this year, or is it also a requirement for phase 2 applications to be submitted this fall?
It will be for all applications going forward, phase 1 and phase 2.
Thank you. Have you heard if DOD, NASA, and NSF will be incorporating the same type of requirement for phase 1 proposals?
I can't really speak for other agencies. I do know that NSF has had a community benefits plan for a long time that is probably different, but has some similarities. So.
With the fund to execute the PIER plan is within the typical 200,000 phase 1 award, or is there opportunity outside of the award to support the PIER plan?
It's within the 200 or the 250K limitations. We have not increased the size of the award.
Is the funding requested for PIER plan outside of the SBIR phase 1 or phase 2 total, or is folded into the proposal allowed cost for phase 1/phase 2?
Yeah.
I think you answered.
Yeah, I just answered that question. The limits for the award do not change.
I'm sorry, what are the weightings percent of the whole, or the weightings percent of the whole?
Yeah, we don't have those. We don't have values for those weightings.
Is national recruiting required to obtain appropriate candidates?
No, it's national recruiting is not required.
What would you expect a PIER plan would look like if the PIER is minority or women?
I think that you can't rely on. Yeah, I could go back to some of the points that I made in my presentation about improving your efforts and activities in this area. You cannot rest on laurels, let's say the existing state of the company. So you go back to the list of topics and take a look and see what you can propose in that area.
Okay. Just 1 second, please. I'm just on screen. Okay. Is there any place where we can find who fall into underrepresented, underprivileged communities? There are multiple definitions, but it would be good to have a specific one for these type of proposals.
I did provide some links and some resources at the end of the slides, and there are some definitions there. And you know, National Science Foundation has a very good database of who is working in STEM and who is not. That would be a good place to look, because if you can use data to demonstrate the underrepresentation of the particular, let's say, intern or the group that you're going to work with, that you know is very helpful. Obviously, data always helps to back up a claim.
Can we request additional funds to execute the PIER plan?
No, no additional funds. You have to stay within the limits published in the topics document.
Does the PIER plan count against the page limit of the project narrative document?
No, it does not. You may add your PIER plan to the end of it, but it does not count against the page limit.
What is the extra budget for PIER plan activities for phase 1 and phase 2 proposals?
There is none. So I've answered that question about 5 times. So if you want to type the answer, Zena, but there are no additional funds. There's going to be, you just have to stay within what's published in the topics document, but you may use the PIER, may use R&D funds for execution of your PIER plan.
Is the funds requested for executing PIER plan included in the fund cap? And you just answered that.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna just read the questions, but for the rest, for the start where it said 15% women and minorities, is that each or total for both categories?
So that's for each group, and that's a goal. I understand that someone had indicated 15% before, and I think I misunderstood the question, but it's not set aside, it's a goal.
Is this requirement for current active SBIR? Do we need to submit a PIER plan for an existing grant?
No, you do not. It's for fiscal year 24 applications.
You mentioned that R&D funds can be requested for the PIER plan as long as it is within guidelines. This applies for both phase 1 and phase 2?
That's correct.
If not 15%, then what is the percentage?
We don't have percentages.
Do all applications reviewers provide a PIER plan evaluation alongside technical and commercial components, or will there be a separate reviewer for the plans?
The technical reviewers are going to be reviewing the PIER plan. And I will say that, yeah, it's a good question. And I will say that this is going to be a bit of a learning curve for the applicants, as well as the reviewers, as well as for our office. So we are going to be providing the reviewers with the similar guidance that we have provided with you today.
Is there any requirement to spend a specific percentage of the budget to execute a PIER plan?
There is no requirement, but as usual, you should work within allowable budget guidelines. So the amount requested for the PIER plan should match what is proposed and the level of effort that's required to complete the PIER plan. So there shouldn't be a mismatch there.
Is there a sample PIER plan available that can assist in guiding an effective plan?
We don't have sample PIER plans. You should look through the links and the resources I provided. And I think there'll be, you know, some suggested topics that will come out of that review.
Can the links in the chat be included in the slides when they're emailed to us? Sure, yeah. I put the additional resources links, Eileen, I copied and pasted into the chat. So yes, definitely they are included. Eileen, can you go back to the previous slide?
Sure.
Yes, these are the links that were put in the chat, and also yes, you will receive a copy of the presentation that has the links. So what is the meaning of a disadvantaged minority? In my case, I'm a member of a minority, and SBIR FOA asks for my ethnicity. I don't feel that I am a disadvantaged minority. How is category defined? Who gets to define the category?
So I would refer you to the links that are shown right now on the screen, because some of those questions are answered in these links.
When you say it needs to be integral to the research, what does that mean? Is training to outside community organization or diverse university groups on the technology topic applicable?
So I'm not the technical reviewer, so for me to give you a yes or no to a particular example, I don't think would be wise. You do need to think about whether or not what you're proposing how it will benefit the outcome of the project, so that it doesn't feel like a separate add-on to your application. They're not related to the outcome, I guess, might be a good question to ask yourself.
Must we target URPs evenly, or is it allowable to provide greater focus to any groups within the broader URP groups, such as regionally relevant persons?
Oh, you're going to be proposing something very specific. So focusing on a particular disadvantaged community or a particular underrepresented demographic is fine. And back to the question about a disadvantaged community, one of the examples that I could provide is potentially a rural community that doesn't have access to a resilient, clean energy system, or a rural community that doesn't have a robust, they don't have robust job opportunities. And so those are just examples, and I think that the list can go on and be very long, but I did want to at least mention that.
Our proposal was evaluated as meritorious, but still not selected. What should we do?
This is not really the top question for this particular webinar, but you are able to look at the reviews, the technical reviewer review comments, and take a look at them and decide what it is that you want to do with your technology going forward, whether or not you want to try again with DOE SBIR or not. But the award decisions are not appealable. So.
Okay, we have a question from a person who joined at 3:15 and is saying that I'm sorry, but I missed information. The allocation for minority awards, it will be only 15%.
So there are no set-asides or allocations. It is a goal for 15% of our awards to go to women-owned small businesses, and 15% to socially and economically disadvantaged owned businesses. And those definitions are on our website. So yeah, it's 15%. It's a goal. There are no set-asides, but we are trying to achieve that with various initiatives.
As the PIER plan requirement is new, will an application be penalized if their PIER plan is not fully developed as DOE expects?
Well, since it is part of the technical merit review criteria, if the reviewer feels that it is not, well developed or well thought out, it will affect your ultimate score of the application relative to others.
Doesn't this requirement for PIER have the same impact as affirmative action? And didn't we just learn that affirmative action is unconstitutional?
That particular Supreme Court decision, is not going to have an immediate impact on our program.
Is this requirement for current active SBIR? Do we need to submit PIER plan for existing grants? Eileen, you answered that. No.
No, you don't need to submit one for existing grants.
The funds for PIER plan in the budget would be as direct cost or not included in the indirect pool.
You can submit the fund, you can request funds for the PIER plan within allowable cost guidelines. So it depends on where the effort is, where it is appropriate to put those costs.
I cannot copy and paste the information from the chat. Hopefully we'll provide them somehow. I'm so sorry that you cannot copy. You can do a screen shot or copy the screen so that you can
and you will get these in a couple of days. So and the links will be embedded in the slides. So I don't think this is like a situation where time is of the essence. So
or you can use your phone to take a picture of the screen. That way you see the links and then you go and type it.
Yeah, but not all the links are spelled out. Maybe you could do when you send out the slides, maybe, that thing that you pasted into the chat that had all the links, maybe you could include that in the.
That's what I did. I put it in the chat, the links.
I know, but when your email, but that will still be a few days away. Okay. Never mind.
Sure.
That doesn't make any sense.
I can do that. Absolutely. Thank you. Do we need to provide a budget estimation for execution of the plan?
Yes, you need to include it in your budget.
I think also again asking about the percentage of awards to URP.
Oh, you can look at our website. We do have a plot on our website that shows that over time. If you go to our homepage and about, we have a DEI page and we show those numbers.
Will the grant amount support the overhead rates with the university partners?
I'll have to refer you to the budget guidelines in the FOA.
Do you need to break out the PIER plan activity cost in the budget and the statement of work task list?
You might want to send me an email with respect to that question, as I think I may need to go back to some of the people in our office to figure out how detailed it needs to be. So what I would suggest you to do is send me an email on this question. I'll get you an answer.
Okay, and I'm going to put your email.
But you really just want to use the typical, typical level of granularity that you would use in a budget application to us. It's going to be the same. Nothing's really changing about the budget. It's just that you're going to be putting those, those costs into your budget, like you do with other costs.
Okay, I understand that any expense related to the PIER plan need to be presented in the budget, but is it required or expected that the PIER plan incurs expenses? If the PIER plan does not include any explicit cost, is there a problem with that?
No, that is not a problem.
Will the applicants be required to produce audited financial as part of the application process?
Again, that's probably something, if you want to email me that question. I'm not 100% sure what financial reporting is required. So my apologies. If you want more information about that, send me an email.
Okay, Eileen, I'm just typing your email address to this person. and I'm going to send it. Which will be more important, a PIER plan addressing employment and training of UR group, or a tech that serves needs of UR community?
We're not going to be ranking those. We're looking for genuine PIER plans and creative PIER plans, and ones that move the needle. And we don't have a preference.
Traditionally, wouldn't PIER be in G and A? Does it have to be discussed separately in facilitation?
Just you really just need to utilize the budget or guidelines in the
FOA and then the references there as well, because if it is R&D, like you have an intern doing research and development, then it will be in your direct costs, etc. That makes sense.
Okay, I think you just answered a question. Would PIER expenses typically fall under other direct cost or indirect cost?
I just answered that. It depends on
where they belong. Are they R&D? Then that's direct. Thank you.
Thank you, Eileen. I don't see any more questions submitted.
All right, well, thank you everybody for attending.
Reach out to our office with additional questions, and I hope everybody has a nice day.
Thank you, Eileen. Thank you everyone for attending. Look for the slides. We will email it to you as soon as we receive the attendees list. Okay, we have 2 more questions. Where can we get help in developing our PIER plan? And what could you please repeat the answer to the last question? I guess you answered it for the one for the direct.
It's just that your costs
belong where they belong, depending on the category. Are they R&D efforts? Or do they belong in, do they come out of your profit? Do they belong to your the indirect? So just utilize the budget guidelines in the FOA and coming up with your PIER plan budget.
Thank you, Eileen. No more questions. Okay, 2 more. Thank you. No more questions. Thank you, Eileen. And with that, we reached the end of the webinar. Have a good evening, everyone.